Right, let's get more perspective and in-depth in this. Let's bring in our correspondent Ethan Tashobia, joining us live from Kigali, and also joining us via Zoom from Nairobi is Professor Macharia Munene, a lecturer of history and international relations. Gentlemen, both of you are very welcome to Africa Live. Ethan, let's begin with you. How is Rwanda taking this quoted comment from the French president that the world could have stopped the genocide but lacked the will to do so?
The comment itself, coming from France, over the last 4 or 5 years, since 2021, we've seen as what we could call an admission from the French government, admitting the French role in the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi here in Rwanda, especially with the reports coming from France and another report, a counter report that was commissioned by the government of Rwanda. So according to genocide survivors here, it's a progress step in the right direction towards France's acceptance its role in the 1994 genocide here. Now, let's take you back in 1994, and years before then, the French President Macron, around that time, allegedly was aware, and his government, according to the reports, that the French government, the Rwandan government of Habyarimana at that time, preparing the
Well, we apologize for that technical poor quality, but let's see if we can continue our in-depth discussion and questioning with Professor Macharia Munene, who is standing by. Professor, if you can hear me, over to you now. Professor, how significant do you think this admission is at this time, and what is the likely impact of such a statement, Professor?
Thank you very much. I think the reason Macron is trying to make amends and sound as if he's a reasonable person, that France is reasonable, while it was said to be involved directly in the genocide. The things going on right now in Africa, particularly in the Sahel region, are worrying to France and to other countries. So this is one way of France trying to make amends so that it does not continue to look as terrible as it does because of its past behavior. So it's a way of making peace with various African countries, that it is not going to be as guilty as it was before. And instead of looking at France as an enemy, the imperial enemy that condones and encourages killings and exploitation, maybe have a different look. But I think it's related to the events, the development in Western Africa, where the anti-French feeling is very high. So one way of trying to deal with that is to sound reconciliatory to the African countries. And appearing to regret the genocide is one way.
All right, important points that you've brought to our attention there. Professor, despite this admission by France that the world lacked the will to do something to stop the Rwandan genocide, has the world itself learned from the past, and is the world showing that it now has the will to stop such genocides happening elsewhere in the world?
Well, we hope that now they have the world has the will, but it seems to behave by the current moment. It remains to be seen, because the big powers have tended to do things, to have double standards in dealing with matters Africa. But there is that desire to appear as if it has learned its lessons. There is doubt whether the world has learned its lessons when it comes to Africa. And but there's nothing wrong with making amends or making attempts to look as if they are reasonable. We hope that they will not stand by and watch another genocide as takes place. The things going on in Sudan right now are not the best in the whole world. In other places, the Congo continues to be a problem. So we hope they have learned their lessons and they will not watch. At the time in 1994, the United Nations was warned, and it looked, Kofi Annan was in charge, and he ignored the whole thing. So we hope that this time, the people responsible will behave in a more appropriate manner than they did at the time.
All right, Professor, picking up on what you touched on earlier, the question still needs to be asked, why now? Why do you think Macron is making the admission now?
Why now? It's confession time. Things are going wrong everywhere. There are wars in Gaza, genocide wars in Gaza. There are fighting in Ukraine. There are commotions in different parts of Latin America and in Asia. Why now? Maybe it's guilt consciousness is catching up with those who should be dealing with this, paying attention to this. There's a sense of guilt coming up that not enough has been done that should be done by those responsible. So I think the why now question comes up because there is a sense of guilt, and they have been caught flat-footed without, with the sense of guilt, not having done what needs to be done. Their consciousness is pricking them.